It started with a letter that looked like junk mail. I nearly tossed it out with the pizza coupons and political flyers, but something about the bold red stamp on the envelope caught my eye. Final notice, lien pending. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what this was about. I hadn't taken out any new loans. I wasn't behind on taxes, and I owned my family ranch outright. I'd inherited it from my grandfather 2 years ago. So how could there be a lien? That's when I dove into the paperwork. The letter was from a homeowners association, a group I'd never heard of, in a community I didn't even live in. According to them, I owed over $3,000 in unpaid association dues, fines, and maintenance violations. They claimed they'd notified me multiple times and that, due to non-payment, they were moving forward with foreclosing on the property. It made no sense. I lived 15 miles outside of any HOA-governed subdivision. My ranch had been in my family since 1962, long before any cookie-cutter HOA communities existed in our area. Confused and furious, I called the number listed. A chirpy voice answered, "Greystone Hills HOA, this is Karen speaking. How may I help you?" And that, my friends, is when I met HOA Karen, the self-appointed queen of pettiness, control, and unearned power. I tried to explain there must be some mistake. My property isn't even part of your HOA. I live in rural county land, not in any development. But Karen, smug as ever, responded with, "Well, sir, our map boundaries were extended by vote 2 years ago to encompass bordering properties. Yours is one of them. You should have received notice." I was stunned. You can't just randomly decide my land is part of your HOA. That's not how property law works. Karen scoffed. "It's all perfectly legal. It passed with a 76% community vote. We mailed you the documents and even gave a 90-day grace period before assessments began. You ignored all of them, so now we're following standard procedure." I hung up, heart racing, and immediately called my attorney. He looked over the papers and grimaced. "This is going to be messy," he said. "And it's not entirely legal. HOAs can't just annex land without your consent. But if she filed with the county and pushed the lien through without challenge, undoing it could take months." I didn't have months, because 3 weeks later a notice came in the mail saying my property had been sold at auction. For $25,000, a 40-acre working ranch with a stock pond, 2 barns, and a newly built cabin. Easily worth over $400,000 on the open market. I was livid and determined. First, I filed an emergency motion in court to halt the transfer of the property. My lawyer worked overtime to prove this HOA had no jurisdiction, no deeded rights over my property, and that I had never signed or agreed to their rules. Thankfully, a judge granted a temporary injunction, which stopped the new buyer from taking possession. But here's where it got worse. The buyer was Karen's cousin. Yep. Karen had orchestrated this entire fraud just to flip the property to her family. Her cousin, who lived out of state, had bought the ranch for pennies at auction and was already advertising it online as a turnkey country retreat. They even had Airbnb listings drafted. This wasn't just an accident, it was calculated theft. We dug into public records and found that Karen had been pulling similar stunts for years, targeting elderly landowners, absentee owners, or people she assumed wouldn't fight back. Most had just paid the fine to make it go away. A few had lost small parcels and never even knew it until it was too late. But I wasn't going to let that happen. Not to my land. Not on my watch. The first major break came when my lawyer subpoenaed internal HOA communications. Turns out Karen never had the authority to include my ranch in the HOA boundaries. She faked a vote tally, forged meeting minutes, and backdated notices that were supposedly mailed to me. She even photoshopped my signature on a consent form agreeing to HOA membership, which of course I never signed. With this in hand, we filed a criminal complaint. Karen was arrested for fraud, forgery, falsifying government documents, and theft by deception. Her smug voice and robotic politeness vanished the moment she was handcuffed on her own perfectly manicured front lawn. Oh, and the best part? The entire arrest was caught on camera by a local news crew that had picked up the story. But I wasn't finished. I sued the HOA for damages, emotional distress, loss of use, defamation, and attempted theft of property. The court not only awarded me the full value of the ranch, over $400,000, but also punitive damages for the sheer scale of their misconduct. The HOA was forced to dissolve within 6 months and its assets liquidated to pay off the judgment. That included their little community clubhouse, which I ended up buying at auction just to level it and turn it into a dog park. As for Karen, she's now serving a 7-year sentence and owes me personally $75,000 in restitution. I'll likely never see a dime of that, but knowing she'll spend years in a concrete box thinking about my ranch, that's payment enough. I've since put up large signs on the ranch's entrance. Private land, not part of any HOA, trespassers will be prosecuted. But honestly, the best sign is the one I hung on my front porch. Owned, defended, and restored by the rightful owner. The nerve some people have, thinking they can steal land with paperwork and fake authority. But Karen learned the hard way that some of us fight back. And when we do, we fight smart, fast, and with the full force of truth on our side.